welcome. I am Terry Kay of the Jewish Grandparents Network. Thank you for joining us tonight for How Emotions Affect Your Grandchild's Behavior. We are honored that our presenter tonight is Patty Wipfler, founder of the renowned Hand in Hand Parenting. First, may I acknowledge you all and thank you for coming tonight. We know that you are pulled in 100 directions right now, and the news continues hour by hour to be devastating. We want to say thank you to you for finding space in your life for JGN in this discussion tonight. A big thank you to Zoe Fleischer of Tiny Windows Consulting and Sarah Reed, our JGN colleague, who are helping facilitate. Zoe, a huge mazal tov to you and Sterling on your upcoming wedding on October 28th. We wish you much happiness.
Mazel tov.
If you have a question, please write it in chat or raise your Zoom hand. We will invite you to unmute yourself. And if your camera's on, we'll spotlight you. Most of all, we want to keep it informal and chatty. And Patty has said, just jump in and we will ask Patty to pause as your questions arise. And now it is my great honor to turn the mic over to our wonderful president, my dear colleague, Eileen Vogelstein, who will introduce Patty.
Thank you, Terry. And I would also like to thank everyone for joining us tonight for this really important conversation. It's an honor for me to introduce to you Patty Wipfler. As Terry said, Patty is the founder of Hand in Hand, an organization she founded over 30 years ago to help parents have the tools they needed to support their children and themselves during difficult times. Patty has written extensively and recorded countless videos that bring the principles and benefits of hand-in-hand philosophy to parents, educators, and healthcare professionals. She has led workshops in 23 countries, and her work is published in 15 languages. I was first introduced to Patty by my daughter more than 10 years ago, when my daughter was in the process of being trained as a hand-in-hand certified instructor. I was then the director of an early childhood program and was immediately impressed with hand-in-hand's philosophy and wanted to learn more. So I enrolled in their introductory course and found it so compelling that I had all my teachers trained in the approach. I can honestly tell you that understanding the core principles of the approach and the 5 tools unequivocally, positively changed the culture of our classrooms, the children's behavior, and the relationships between the teachers and the students. Today, more than ever, our children and our grandchildren are having and expressing big emotions. Patty is here tonight to help us better understand how these emotions impact children's behavior and to share with us some strategies for supporting yourself and your grandchildren. Thank you, Patty, for being here with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Eileen, for your kind introduction. I'm really happy to be here. I don't know. I have 21 years under my belt of being a grandma, and I have loved the experience. And I'm sure that you each who came have deep, deep love for your families and many hopes in your grandchildren. And if they're really good, interesting, exploratory young people, many frustrations are probably in you as well. It's just human behavior is so interesting. And so I'm going to try to give you a few clues as to ways to meet behaviors that are challenging or behaviors that flummox you for one reason or another, with a big heart and with the love that you carry and with an understanding of kind of how emotions work for children and for all of us. So I'm going to And so I just want to thank you for all of the love and the care that you are pouring into your grandchildren and to your children who are their parents. It really is love and understanding and forbearance and tolerance and caring is the antidote to the ills of the world. And as we must be witnessing, hard things in faraway places as well as nearby, the love that we give is the antidote, and we are not powerless. It's like we are powerful in that love, and we can change the trajectory of people's lives if we have a few tools and some understanding. So I'll get on with it now. So you could do the next slide. Thank you. So the way I was raised, my parents thought that what I needed was sort of rewards and punishments. Those were the tools that parents had to influence their children's behavior in the old days. And that's pretty much true. It's true in many cultures, but not all cultures, that parents use rewards and punishments to try to influence children's behavior. But a much stronger influence in a child's behavior and in their well-being is a sense of connection, a sense of being seen, being heard, being cherished, being respected. The attention that you pay to your grandchildren without saying a word sometimes is very, very powerful. And with good attention from the outside, a child's neural pathways grow. A child becomes smarter, and a child can continually reference their internal moral compass. Children are born wanting to love, wanting to cooperate, wanting to be part of things in a constructive way. That is their instinct from the time they're babies. Long ago, I was working with a woman who worked at the Center for, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a center for helping people who have physical disabilities in the ways that would support them. And they would teach mothers who, for instance, were paralyzed on one side, how to lift their babies off of a changing table. They'd sort of wrap, 4 ends of a receiving blanket together and grab it and lift it in order to get their baby off the changing table and into their lap. And babies who are very, very young have a startle reflex that makes them throw their arms and legs out. But what she noticed was that when these little tiny babies, only a day or two old, had the experience of having that blanket pulled up around them and getting to be in their mother's lap after that little experience happened, they stopped startling, which is not common at that age. And so the will to cooperate is built in. The will to want to be with and be seen by is built in. So connection is a very strong motivator of children, and it's a very strong intelligence builder and moral fiber builder. So next slide. And that sense of connection is very powerful in that it really promotes learning and promotes joy in life for children and for all of us, really. But especially in young children, the sense of connection, the sense of being with or being seen by or being protected by breaks very, very easily. And this is what makes children's behavior go off track. It's what makes children, want the toy that somebody else is already playing with. It's what makes children, call names after they've been in preschool for 6 months and have heard other children call names. It's what makes children aggressive or what makes children timid, is the times when connection broke. And when connection breaks, hurt feelings go in. And those hurt feelings confuse a child. They make it hard for a child to think, and they make a child reactive. And so really, anytime your grandchild's behavior goes what we call off track, it's not bad behavior, it's language. It's going to tell you that your child isn't okay on the inside, although they're trying to look okay. And so off-track behavior means that they don't feel connected, and not feeling connected will cause off-track behavior. It's sort of two sides of the same coin. Off-track behavior and lack of connection are both, sort of, the one causes the other, and they come together almost instantaneously. And so when your grandchild's thinking breaks down, there are very constructive things you can do to restore their sense of safety and restore their sense of connection, which will restore their ability to do things that make sense, to be kind to one another, to be less impulsive, to pay attention for longer to the things they're interested in. It really helps the executive function lights go on to feel connected. So next slide. So this is a sort of a key understanding. It's kind of the basis of how we see the causes of children's off-track behaviors, difficult behaviors, challenging behaviors, and what you as a grandparent or any caring adult can do to change the situation, to help the child heal from the hurt that is niggling them badly on the inside. And that is to offer connection. So the helping process, the way you begin to support the child while they fix it, is to move in close, to stop the off-track behavior. Don't say stop from 5 feet away. Go in and make stop happen. So if a child is throwing toys and and it's a little dangerous, it's not hurting anybody, but they're just throwing toys around, and somebody will get hurt if it continues. Instead of saying, stop that right now, you have to remember that a child who doesn't feel connected can't think. And that's why verbal setting of limits is not useful. It really, when you set limits verbally, they can't think, so they don't stop. And then you get upset, and then you can't think because they haven't done what you said. And then you've got two people who both feel aggravated in the situation, and nobody's thinking. Both people are reacting, you and the child. So better thing to do is just to walk right over and put your hand on their hand that's got a block in their hand and they're ready to throw it. You just put your hand on their wrist and you say, and you hold their wrist so they can't throw the block. You bring the limit. That's stopping the off-track behavior. And as soon as someone, and this makes it safer for the child to feel the bad feelings that are driving that behavior. And especially if you go in without scolding. So if you just go in and go, no, can't let you do that. And the less you talk, the better they can notice those feelings that are driving them to throw stuff. And once they notice that, they're going to have big feelings. Out come the feelings that were bothering them and blocking their ability to think. And sometimes the tension comes out in laughter. They try to throw it and they laugh, and they try again and they laugh. And you keep going, and they try to throw it again and they laugh. And you have a little game starts, really, where they keep showing you the impulse to throw, and you keep smiling and being connected and being in with them and keeping them from throwing. And they love that game. So you could play that game for 5 minutes, and then they would drop the block and go off and build a tower with somebody else. And the impulse to do harm is gone because now they can think. Or the big bad feelings come out, and you stop them from throwing the block, and all of a sudden they're kicking and squirming and sweating and having a big emotional moment on the floor, or just it's all over the place. It's not under anybody's control. However, all of that feeling is an emotional release, and it's releasing the feelings that drove that behavior so that they don't have to be in the grip of those feelings any longer. Sometimes they throw a tantrum, sometimes they tremble and sweat and tremble and sweat. Sometimes, oftentimes with really very young children, all of a sudden the tension that was underneath there was something about separation, which is a huge issue for any child under 5 and many children much longer than that. And they'll fall on the floor and go, I want to go home. I need my mommy. Mommy, where are you? Daddy, where are you? And they'll want somebody that's not there. And all of those feelings of fear and worry and grief come up about not being with their closest person. It's often what drives off-track behavior at grandma's house or grandpa's house. So,
Patty, could I just jump in, because you have responded to a question that a participant asked partially. The participant asked, what if they're having a tantrum, and you spoke about that. How can we stop that? Now, or at least how can we respond?
okay. We've been taught to stop behavior that looks wild, that looks out of control, that is full of emotion. But actually, what a child is trying to do is use their deepest intelligence. Their thinking got blocked by bad feelings. They showed that to you in their off-track behavior. You came in and stopped the off-track behavior, and now they feel safe enough to get rid of those feelings. And having a tantrum or having a big fit on the floor, kicking and sweating and writhing, or simply just bursting into tears and crying and crying and crying with great big fat tears, all of those things heal the hurt as long as you are a calm, confident listener for them. So healing the hurt and getting a child back to their usual, sunny, cooperative self is all about releasing feelings in these ways. It's a process. It's built in. They are built to heal from hurt. They're built to emerge from off-track behavior. And so if you stay there and make eye contact, even if they're not looking at you, you just offer eye contact and you go, I'm right here. I'll stay with you. I see this is hard. That's all you have to say. Just, I'll stay with you. But what that says to them is, I'm not upset. The world around you is okay. You get to have this reaction to having this feeling, and I'll keep you safe until it's over. And sometimes the tantrum goes on a long time. Sometimes it's a little 5 or 10 minute thing. But when the child emerges from it, when they choose to stop, they are in much better shape than they were before. And what's so interesting is they feel closer to you. I'll just say, I had a little boy. I was doing a play event, and there was a little boy that I had not met who came. His mom brought him because he was about to be kicked out of preschool for aggressive behavior. And she just didn't know what to do. It was really hard. The teachers had done everything they knew how to do with him, and they didn't want him there anymore. And he was very shy, but he finally looked inside, and I asked him to take off his shoes. And he took off his shoes, and then he threw a shoe in the room. It wasn't near anybody. It didn't hurt anybody. But I set the limit there. I just picked up the shoe and I gently brought it back, and I said, we have to keep this shoe outside. And I came towards him, and he burst into tears and then proceeded to cry and scream for a very long time in his mommy's lap, crying and crying, saying, I want to go home. I want to go home. I don't want to be here. Mommy, take me home. And I stayed with him and she stayed with him. And we just kept saying, you're safe here. The other children are playing. Maybe you could play too. But mostly saying nothing, mostly just letting him tell us how homesick he was, how frightened he felt to be with us for a long time. It was almost an hour. I think the play event was 10 minutes from being over when he finally, finished that big chunk of upset. And then he got up and looked around and, kind of started to explore and started to walk around the room. And, he did a tiny bit of play before the whole event was over. And on the way out, he was holding his mommy's hand and he looked up at her and he said, Mommy, I have two homes. There's home, and here's a home. Here's my home too. And his whole perspective had changed. It's like, this is a safe place. I am welcome here. Even when I'm falling apart with feelings, I'm welcome here. I like that. It's like all of a sudden his world got immensely bigger because there had never been another place like this for him. So,
Patty, just be one more question that's been here for a while from Donna, which would be helpful in framing. Is there a specific age group to which your information applies? At what age can the child process these verbal cues?
Any age at all, from infancy all the way to 99 and beyond. It's like we all are built this way to recover from hurt. And the way you do it is different, if it's a teenager than it is if it's a 2-year-old. But we all can sense connection when it's being offered. We all crave connection. We all get hurt as little children and carry those hurts and get a little more rigid because of them. And we all would like to be rid of the ways in which we are afraid and timid and not feeling safe enough to be ourselves. So I'm talking about, and infants use this process to recover from birth trauma. And us older folks use this process to keep our hearts and our minds open, even when we've been hurt many times. So
thank you, Patty. There were 2 follow-up questions, but you could let us know. Would you prefer we hold them to follow up to your account? Should we hold them?
Let's hold them a little bit. Yeah.
Got it.
So I want to give some. I want to give some steps for grandparents to build a lifelong, safe and loving connection with grandchildren, and to build the safety so that your grandchildren can show you their issues and get help from you so that you can be a life changer. So just the last sort of overview thing here is that listening, being a listener, allowing somebody to show you their feelings and talk to you about them. The listening, thank you, is that the listener offers respect and warmth and confidence and time. The longer you have to listen, the better. And the person you're listening to unconsciously feels safer and safer. And as they feel safer and safer, they are more likely to release tension in laughter, in crying, in trembling. And grown-ups don't do tantrums too much, except with the people that promised they would be with them forever. And sometimes we show our tantrums to our partners, for instance, because they committed to us and therefore we feel safe enough with them. But children have easy access to offloading frustration in tantrums, and it's part of the learning process to do so. So this builds a child's intelligence. Sort of releasing emotional tension makes more brain cells available for learning. There's more connection with their sense of what is right and just. They can access their inner sense of how to care, how to love, how to cooperate. and their appetite for doing so. So this is the process, and it works for everybody from just, born 5 minutes ago to, all the way through life. So next slide. So the way to build a relationship so that when your grandchildren go to college and they have learning issues, they call you up and ask you if you would listen to them, which is what my senior in college grandson does. It's like we just have a very safe relationship that was built on special time. And so it's a vitamin. You don't connect special time to, well, after you put your dishes in the dishwasher, we can do special time. You don't connect it to anything. They don't have to earn it. It is something you do regardless of how they are or whether they've picked up their clothes or not. And next slide. What special time is just setting aside some time. It could be anywhere from 5 minutes to half an hour. We don't recommend a whole hour unless you've been doing it for a while, because it's hard to put our own needs aside for that long. But you put your own needs aside and you say, I'll do whatever you want to do. What do you want to do? And you bring some excitement to it, and you bring warmth, and you bring interest, and your child gets to decide what happens in special time. And you set a timer, so there's a start and an end. And that way they learn to feel having someone's 100% attention. And they love that feeling, so they're going to love special time. And they make interesting use of it. So examples, sometimes it's not something that doesn't, it doesn't say special to you, but they choose it, so it must be special to them. My granddaughter, when she was 3, what she wanted to do in special time is go out all around the neighborhood with a bag and collect snail shells, little dried up snail shells. And so her special times for a whole period of time were, building her snail shell collection. These are old garden snails that died. And it was not especially my favorite thing to do, but your job during special time is to have interest in your grandchild while they're doing this. So you focus on extra warmth, extra eye contact, little extra physical connection, and really you use whatever they choose as a vehicle for your delight in them. And it is a surprisingly powerful tool. When children come over and they're starting to get into it with each other, you've got several grandchildren and one of them's, a little rascally right there, you can say, hey, let's go do some special time. You can take them off to a different part of the house and shine your light of love on them and let them choose what they're going to do. And, they might want to jump on the bed and say, whoa, look at you jump, enjoy it, show your enjoyment, let their spirits rise. And so it's a very good tool. It's a really good tool for siblings when there's sibling rivalry that shows up. If you do special time with one and special time with the other, oftentimes it settles their insides because they've had the connection they need in order to think and function well with each other. So it's a good problem solver right in and of itself. And next slide. And step 2, which is really fun and interesting.
Excuse me, Patty, so sorry to interrupt you. Debbie has asked, what if your grandchild does not want to go off with you for special time?
Well, if they've been hitting or slapping, if they've been doing off-track behavior that's really, up hard on somebody else, then you say, okay, we don't need to go somewhere, but I can't let you do that. So you bring a limit to the off-track behavior, and then you let them feel your attention right there. And it's like, if they want to go distract themselves with some other kind of play, you can let them do that for a little while. But if they come back and start wanting to slap somebody, you just go, no, I think we need some time together. I'm right here. And I can't let you do that. So you set a limit again, but this time you say, no, I'm not going to read you a book. No, we're not going to go color right now. You can come sit on the couch with me. So you don't have to separate them, but you do need to set a limit. So it's a gentle way of getting towards setting the limit so that they can have a big upset and get the bad feelings out. It's a whole different way of thinking. It's like usually, we think, well, we'll be having a good time if there's no big messy feelings, and we'll be having a bad time if there are messy feelings, and it will be a kind of a failure of the dinner together or something. But there's nothing better than moving in and listening to relieve a child of bad feelings, because they're going to have a better evening, they're going to sleep better, they're going to have a better day tomorrow at school. Those feelings have been niggling them for a while, and they brought it up right in front of you, hoping against hope in some subconscious way that they would get some help with this thing that's making life hard for them. And if you listen, that's the help they've been looking for. So laughter is a great connector of people. And it really relieves a lot of fears that children carry and embarrassments. It relieves the distance between people that our society has so much of. So your next step that's really, really helpful in building a safe relationship is to promote laughter in play. So, and often the way you do this is by taking the less powerful role. It's no tickling involved. It's like you don't want to make a child laugh by tickling. There's a kind of manipulation there that isn't really good for children. You can pretend to tickle, but you don't want to trap them in a kind of physical touch that they're not in charge of. So, for instance, if children are swinging together, like the children in this photo, what you can do is, give them a push, and then when the swing comes back to you, you go, whoa! You can take the less powerful role. You can run backwards a little bit. Whoa, you guys! And then you can. I just want to get close in and hug you. Whoa! How can I hug you? I have hugs for you. Here I come. Here comes my hugs. Whoa! There you go again. And children will laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh because you aren't the powerful grown-up. You're taking the less powerful role. And so getting games going that have affection involved and often physical contact of one way, or proposed or real, and they just get to be the ones in the powerful role, and that's really good medicine for children because so often they're not in charge of very much. So affection games that my grandchildren used to have loved, and we still laugh about them, is let's see. Oh, well, they would come over to my house, and I'd get ready to hug them, and they would run away, and with a sparkle in their eyes, and I go, wait a minute, come back, I have kisses for you. And that would start kind of a 5-minute running around the house trying to get a hug, get a kiss. And I could have, grabbed them, made them hug me or kiss me, but that's not the point. The point is to connect. And if they're laughing and laughing because I can't catch them, that's the most connected thing that we could possibly do. So we run around the dining room table many times and run through the living room, and I'm wanting their kisses so badly. How many kisses can you give me? It's been a long time since I've seen you. And they just, they come close and then they run away. And it really lights up their lives to play. What we used to call it was no huggy, no kissy. And we have played that game 1,000 times. It's like I never get a hug or a kiss when they walk in the door. But I do get lots of fun, and I do get their hearts, kind of lifting, and their smiles big and wide, and a lot of play. So just getting a laughter game going, some kind of physical game going. I have a very good friend who has 4 Jewish grandchildren, and she's in a wheelchair, and she does pillow fights with them. It's like you can have a great pillow fight from your wheelchair. Your grandkids will throw you pillows back, and you just go, oh, you got me. Oh no, my shoulder. And you just basically you ham up being the one that gets got, and they get to laugh and laugh and laugh. And oh no, not my knee. Oh, you got my knee. Come here, come here. I'm going to get you this time. And then you throw your pillow, and it goes, 2 feet away from them, and they laugh and laugh because you can't throw the pillow right. So you don't really have to be physically able to play these games. You just go for the laughter and go for hamming it up, so that they're the powerful ones, and they're the ones that get to, win. Let's see. I'll tell you an interesting story. My grandson came over, and it was just him and me, and so we played. We didn't do special time, but we played in the family room, and he wanted to get all the stuff out, all the pieces of all the stuff, and just pour it all out, and just make this big pile of all the pieces of toys that we own. And I'm looking at this, and I think, most grandparents look at mess and like, oh geez, do we really have to do this? So we have a few issues around mess and things all over the place to work on. But we played for a while, and then it was time for me to take him home. And so I said, hey, do you want to help me clean up? And he goes, no. And he gets up and he marches out of the room. And there's lots of choices of what you can do when a child does that. You kind of want to feel like you have to teach them to be responsible, and you have to teach them to help and cooperate and teach. But at that moment I decided, wow. So I just kind of called him back. Hey, Lukey, come on back. And then I picked up one of the pieces of toys, and I just threw it in the air. And he laughed. He looked at me like, you're making a mess? It was kind of unexpected. And so he threw something in the air, and then I threw something, and we both kind of were tossing things in the air and laughing. And so that went on for a few minutes, and then I really did need to take him home. So, come on, I'll bundle you up. Let's go. And I basically didn't scold, and I didn't demand, and I didn't do all of these grown-up things that often happen to children. But he came back the next day, and it was just him again. And he walked in the house, and, hi, Lukey, how you doing? And we said hello. And then he sees things out of place in the kitchen, and he starts tidying up the kitchen. And then he sees things out of place on the dining room table, and he starts tidying that up too. And then he tidied things up in the living room. And then he tidied things up in the family room. It's like he went around to 4 different rooms and put things away where they belonged. And, it took him maybe 5-7 minutes to do this, but I just thought, there's that moral sense in there. He really saw what was happening, chose not to put things away, but chose to come back and do a lot of putting things away the next day. And that's kind of what you want, is that kids want to put things away. When they put things away, they're not fighting themselves on the inside. So I don't know, I liked seeing his moral sense, bright and fresh and very strong the day after, a moment when it hadn't been so strong.
Patty, thank you for the sweet story. We have about 20 minutes left. Would you, may I just share 1 or 2 questions with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Karen asks, just for some clarification about special time, do I understand correctly the special time focused on each child is a regularly, consistently scheduled time and not a reward for special behavior or a timeout for unacceptable behavior? If you could just spend a minute clarifying that, please.
That's right. It has no strings attached. It's a vitamin. It's a vitamin for your relationship with your child. And it really works best if you set up a tradition of special time with each of your grandchildren. And it works better to do special time when the other grandchildren aren't thirsting for it and liable to interrupt. Or, I mean, in general, if you're doing special time and playing cards with, one of your grandchildren, the other ones are going to crawl up your back and stick their heads around and, get themselves into the game or want to, throw the cards around. It's like they want special time and they want it for themselves and they want it now. And so it's actually helpful to set up times when it's really just you and one of them, or to do very short special times and have a couple little waiting pillows, which may or may not work. Okay, here's the waiting pillow and here's the reading books place. And one person gets to read books, one gets to wait on the pillow and watch, and one I'm giving special time for 3 minutes. And then you just kind of move them through the little stations. And that can only work after children have had special time many times and they trust that it's coming and they know that it's coming and they're not starving hungry for it. So,
and can you suggest, Susan, on this note, Susan asks if you could suggest similar ideas, activities, games that work on Zoom for grandparents who live at a distance from their grandchildren?
I've done special time over Zoom. And what happens is that I get my son or my daughter-in-law to hold the computer so that I can see what my grandchild is doing. And what they want to do is show me their, the one grandchild who lived far away. What he want to do is show me his tricks. He's running and jumping onto a bed and landing in all these different ways. And I get to, oh, wow, look at that landing. Oh, that was a good one, And so my son is the cameraman, and my grandchild is I'm seeing him thanks to my son, but my grandchild is doing what he wants to do. And children can, because if they've had special time with you in person, they can get the feeling of your attention pretty easily through Zoom. So it really, or you could ask your grandchild to set up the camera while they do their coloring so that you can watch them and, oh, I like that green there. That's a nice green. Oh, look at that, So you can murmur a few encouraging words, but you don't quiz them. You don't try to, oh, look at that scribble. I think you made an R in the middle of the scribble. Look at that R there. You don't try to teach anything. You just pay attention and show your delight. So it sometimes takes a cameraman to help. So let's see. Let's move on. So this is play listening. We call this kind of listening where you take the less powerful role, or where you promote laughter, just we call it play listening. The child leads. They, you're not telling them what to do, and you notice what promotes laughter, what makes them laugh the hardest, and you do that without tickling. It's pretty simple, but delightful. And let's move on here. So let's go back to when connection breaks and your child doesn't feel connected, and therefore the things they're doing are really not working. And you don't want to leave a child in this state. You don't want them to have to signal 20 times with 20 different behaviors that they are not feeling good and they are off track. You kind of want to stop the behavior, the very first or the very second behavior that's off track, but you do it with connection. So next slide, please. Thank you. So you bring the limit. Next slide. And so in stopping the child's behavior, you want to connect before you correct. So you move in, you go, hey, what's going on here? you know, or hey, are you okay? You know, it's sort of like just getting in there. And then as you stop the behavior, oftentimes the feelings just burst out because, and that this works better and better the more special time you put in, because your child, every special time builds your grandchild's sense of emotional safety with you. And the safer a child feels, the bigger the feelings that come out and the faster they come out. So they don't stay stuck in off track behavior. They know what it's like to be in touch with you and to feel connection from you. And therefore the feelings come on board really fast and really strong. So you get the biggest tantrum, you get the biggest fit, you get the deepest laughs. As the special time, creates a track record of times when I was perfectly safe with my grandpa, times when I was perfectly safe with my grandma. So when you're setting limits, there's all kinds of ways to say no. There's na. There's uh-oh. My children had a babysitter, and when she would say no, she'd go, uh-oh, spaghetti-o. She was really very good at it. You could say, I can't let you do that. You can say no. You can say, come here, you, and pull them into your lap for a hug. You can ruffle their hair, hey, I saw you do that. What's going on here? It can be, it doesn't have to be serious. You don't have to be this serious grown-up. You really can, I don't know, there's just all kinds of ways to say no that aren't the traditional, now I can't lecture, all of which just goes over your child's head, because if they did an off-track behavior, they can't think. They can't learn a thing from the most gorgeous, lecture that you have that you want to give. So it's much better to keep your no's very brief and keep them friendly and wait for the feelings to pop out. And then you listen, and we call this stay listening. You move in, the behavior has stopped, or you continue to stop, an effort to hit or hurt or throw things or pull hair or whatever it is that that fear is driving inside of them. And you just make time for all the feelings, and you don't ask them, why are you feeling this? Why are you angry? Why are you hitting your brother? Why are you do not do an inquisition. It doesn't matter why. It's a feeling in there. They don't know why, that it's driving them nuts. And what they need is your attention and your approval while they have a big emotional poop. It's like there's bad feelings in there. They didn't digest. Those feelings aren't nourishing, and they need to get them out. And yes, it's stinky. Yes, it's inconvenient. Yes, it's a mess. And yes, it's really, really effective. So stay listening is really just staying and listening, and not thinking that you have to say anything or be logical about anything. Just letting them use this processing of emotion instinct that they've been born with. When children choose to have a cry, they're using their deepest intelligence. It's like they don't want one more minute of not being able to think. And in order to think, they need to get these feelings out of the way. And there you are, making it safe for them. There you are, making that possible, to be loved while you feel absolutely and 100% out of sorts.
Patty, someone asked about stay listening in a public place, which I'm sure a lot of folks have experienced. Do you have any anecdotes or advice on that?
Yeah, there's an art to this, and the art to it actually involves getting listened to yourself. so that your feelings about having a child who has regular tantrums in the middle of the grocery store, somebody can listen to those feelings. You can work on your embarrassment. You basically can say what it's like to be a parent whose child has the most colorful and dramatic fit of any child you know in the most public of places, so that you don't tighten up, so that you don't worry about, you don't feel responsible for the lives of the 40 other people in that store, which you are not. You just, so what I have done is to sort of try to move my grocery cart, if it's in the middle of the grocery store, over to the least populated section, and just park it there. And if people don't want to come down that aisle, they can come down some other aisle, and just basically show kindness publicly, show tolerance publicly, show caring publicly. And, if it gets too much and you're getting all tight, you can just say, we're going to leave the cart here and we'll come back and get it. And you pick your child up and go out to the car and do the rest out in the car. Sometimes children have the most interesting responses. There's one child, I don't know of very many other children who've done this. He was adopted out of an orphanage. He had a really very difficult first year in an orphanage that was very poorly run. So he had nobody to connect to for the whole first year of his life. And that's actually very damaging to children's intelligence. And he was really, really a frightened boy when I met him, and he couldn't socialize with anybody. His mother did a whole lot of stay listening with him and a lot of play. And when he was about 4, they went to a county fair and he had a big reaction to something and was crying and fighting and kicking and sweating. And a whole crowd came in and she was holding him and saying, "I'm right here. I'm not going to go away." And he was, "Leave me alone. Don't touch me." He was really in the middle of deep isolation, which was his whole life. Deep isolation was his whole life for the first year of his infancy. So there was a lot to offload there. And pretty soon a policeman came along, and there were about 20 people watching. And the policeman came up and said, "Are you all right, little boy?" And he was 4 years old, and he sat up in his mom's lap and he said, "I'm having some very big feelings and my mommy is helping me and I'm fine." And then he went back in her arms and started crying and sweating and trembling and writhing again. It's like he knew he was in the middle of a process. He knew that she knew how to help. They were partnering. And he stood up and sort of let the other people know that's what's going on here. And very few children have that kind of ability to be verbal about the process, but it does happen. And they do know it, whether they're verbal about it. So
thank you. Lovely. Patty, we have about 5 minutes left, about 5 to 7 minutes. Would you like us to send? We will send out your slides tomorrow. Would you like to, finish your last slide or two, or would you like us to go to questions? There are a couple of questions waiting.
I just want to take 1 more minute just to finish up with the whole approach, because if I leave this part out, it's not an example of the whole approach. So just that's okay. The next one. So getting listened to as a grandparent is one of the most important things you can do. We have lots of feelings about our children, not, say nothing of our grandchildren. We have lots of feelings about our children, things that we wished had gone better with them, ways that they are being that, get under our skin, the partners they chose. I don't know, just being a grandparent has lots of complexity to it. But if you have a regular listener for yourself, it doesn't have to be a counselor, just a listener, then you can be cared about with listening. You can build a safe relationship, and you can offload the feelings that come up when times get hard, either with your child or with your grandchild. And it's really just a process of having someone to hear what it's like to be a grandparent. And I have one of my best friends is part of a grandparent support group, and everybody takes a turn. And if they have feelings, everybody listens. Nobody gives advice. Not giving advice is a very important part of keeping the listening relationship safe. And everybody gets to learn from the other people's discoveries and sagas, and as people sort through their thinking, it becomes a learning environment as well, although the lessons are not mapped out. So we highly recommend doing listening exchanges for, say, 20 minutes each way, and having someone really think well of you while you muddle through the complex things that you are thinking and doing and feeling, really does build into grandparenting a resource that is helpful, that keeps you from being less reactive, that keeps you thinking and watching and observing more keenly and learning from your children and your grandchildren, and from yourself. So that's the end. I'm happy to take more questions.
Thank you so much. That's such a gentle way of speaking. Several people have commented. Ellen had a question. Ellen said they're happy to present it on screen, but with camera off. So Ellen, would you like to jump in?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Actually, my question is more about the grandparent, parent, grandchild dynamic, which is a whole other direction here, because I have 4 grandchildren. I have 2 granddaughters who are under 3, one about to be 3, and they're 3 months apart, and they each have younger siblings. And I'm thinking about a scenario when all 6 adults, the 2 parents and my husband and I, 2 sets of parents, my husband and I are all together. And I feel like, it's a lot of adults and children, and we're kind of hovering a little bit, maybe. And if something comes up, obviously we want the parents to be in charge. I mean, I don't want to leap in, but what is your attitude about grandparents stepping in when there's a difficult situation, quote unquote difficult? I mean, there hasn't been anything major happening, and we don't have so far, when we're all together, we don't have any crazy emotions. But basically, what is your attitude about grandparents then stepping in? And
yeah, I understand that situation it's kind of an emotional minefield, because parents, that there are long-standing relationships that the parents have with the grandparent, with their that the parents of the child have with their own parents, with you. And I don't know, it can get really, feelings can be hurt pretty easily. You don't want to undermine what the parents want, and you're not going to know exactly what sets off the parents' feelings until you've set them off, which is a difficult lesson to learn. So I think maybe just getting together and talking about it, how should we do things when we all get together? I'd be happy to, put my attention on the children if they're starting to, get a little bit off track with one another. But I don't want to take your place. That's not my intention. just sort of figure out who is going to be on deck and who gets to stop being on deck and actually have a cup of tea, uninterrupted, which is a rarity for parents of young children. So it might be that, when you all get together, there's an hour where the parents get to go off and do what they want to do. And, you and your husband are with the children, and then the parents come back. And then you go off to make the dinner. I don't know, just trying to separate out the jobs and who's going to do them so that there's, I don't know, some break for the parents and some clarity about who's going to do what with the children.
Great. Okay.
However, and I will say that I don't think that it makes sense for you grandparents who've heard these things and want to try them to go to your children and say, oh, I heard this speaker and it's called hand-in-hand parenting and this is what you do and da 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 da. It's like, don't try to instruct your children on parenting. It really won't go over well, except in the rarest of cases. So I think giving advice or telling children how to parent is just almost never a good idea. What's better is to say, if you want to ask me something about parenting, or if you want my advice, please ask for it, but I'm not going to give it, on my own impulse. I know you think well, and I respect you, and I don't want to interfere. So if you want me to think with you about something, let me know.
Can I just ask one quick question? I know we're running out of time. I totally agree. We can't tell our parents, right, children how to parent, but can we model behavior?
Sure. That's really a good way to do it. Is just to do what you think is a good thing to do, and hope that it works, and hope that it goes over, and hope that somebody notices. Much better to just show your love, just show your patience, just, those are big feelings, and, you get to have them. I'm right here. And
Patty, I appeared on screen because we're at 8:03 and our commitment is to go from 7 to 8. To all our friends, Patty has agreed to stay on. I had asked her in advance, just in case there are remaining questions. Patty can stay on for about another 5 minutes or so. If you would like to just unmute yourself and ask your question, type it in chat. Just go ahead. And if you do have to leave now, since we are a little over time, we so appreciate you joining us. We will send out tomorrow a follow-up email with the recording, all of Patty's slides, and some other information. And we invite you to stay on for another few minutes. If you do have to leave, have a great night.
So I'm going to ask you about Zoom. Your description of pillow fights and throwing those kinds of love things, can you think of anything, a way that could be adapted to Zoom? It's great to watch them, and as you said, a special time to watch them do stuff and encourage, but can we play a love game on Zoom?
Yeah, it's sort of, it's a love game if you are, warm and loving. And so you can touch fingers, sort of find the finger. You can, if they surprise you with a big boo, you can, rear back.
Okay.
I'm not the best at, basically they can dangle a pillow in front of the camera and you can go, whoa, whoa. They can show you icky things. They can, make you a concoction, oh, I'm going to put baking soda in it now. And then, if you're in the kitchen, now I'm putting vinegar in, look at this. you're going to have to drink this. And you just go, oh no, that's going to taste horrible. And then hold it up to you and you can pretend to drink it. And oof, ugh, ew, boy, that thing is awful. You made that for me, you know. I don't use your imagination. It doesn't have to really make sense. Zoe, would you show our last slide while I'm talking? It's like you don't need to see me so much. I just want to make sure that people know our website, because there's lots of articles and resources.
And I will include that tomorrow for sure. We do have a question that our friend has asked, and several people would like the answer to. We'd so appreciate it, Patty. Question about limit setting limit times with screens. When my 10-year-old granddaughter comes over and the time agreed upon is up, it's almost impossible to keep my cool when she won't stop. Help. Ideas.
Okay. Keeping your cool is essential to a good limit. And so finding a listener and just going on and on about how you dislike screens and how the lecture that you were tempted to give her and the hot words that, you know, come to mind. And I don't know, just kind of letting all of that reaction out so it's not bothering you so, you know, so strongly in the back of your mind. That's one thing. And the other thing is, rather than trying to get your child to put the screen down, you just begin to play a physical game. Say she's sitting on the couch, you know, grab her ankle and pull, and just don't pull her off the couch so she bangs onto the floor. Just pull and pull a little closer to the edge of the sofa, a little closer. And she's going to have to reach out and kind of try to hold herself there. Basically, just be physical. You can gather her up in your arms, you know, and just nuzzle her neck. You can say, okay, 100 kisses for you, and then start kissing from her toes all the way up her leg, all the way up from her fingers to her shoulder. Basically, just pour on the affection until she begins to laugh. And when she begins to laugh, she's beginning to get connected. So just be physical. Sometimes I drag children across the floor, you know, hopefully there's a carpet there, but you know, you just kind of, but you do it gently and you do it with this big smile on your face of just, oh, come on, you, come on, we're going to play. Come on. I don't know what we're going to play, but we're going to play. I'm going to kiss these toes. Such sweet toes. I might even have a nibble. And you just, I don't know, you just keep physically coming after them with affection and delight. And that will get them connected, because they're going to have to laugh, because you've never been like this before, and there's like, oh my gosh, what's happened to grandma, or what's going on with grandpa, you know. But they will feel your delight, and that's a powerful resource.
Patty, you know, the phrase affection and delight pretty much sums up what we experienced here tonight. You just present that way with that sweetness. I think we all want you to come live with us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and we so appreciate you being here. And to all our friends, thank you for joining us. We will follow up with you tomorrow, and we wish you just a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for your support of the Jewish Grandparents Network.